were both about 23, 24. And I found out about this IDA program.
Yeah, it stands for, what does it stand for?
Individual Development Account.
Right?
Yeah. And so we had to take a class one night a week. We went and did it, and you have, realtors come in, you have lenders come in, and they just teach you about what does it take to buy a house.
Okay.
After you go through the class, you meet with, they're kind of like a counselor, and you just talk through what your goal is, and they want your financials, they want to see what your W-2s are, all these things, and then you set up a bank account. So you and your counselor work on a savings goal, and my wife and I, we wanted to rush through. We wanted our house within a year, but the program goes up to 3 years long.
Okay.
And you can save $1,000 a year. And if you do the full 3 years, what happens is at the end of it, they will give you an additional $9,000.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 36 of the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran. I'm an Oregon realtor, soon to be licensed in Washington as well. I'm a multifamily investor, and I invest in short-term rentals as well.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, mortgage lender based in Portland, but licensed in about 9 states. And I'm a single-family investor.
And Jordan, who did we interview today?
Yeah, we had a super interesting interview today with Ryan Recinos, and he's actually not a full-time in real estate. He's a software engineer, right?
Yep.
And then he does real estate on the side, and you can follow his journey on how he converted his first primary into a rental and then use that as a step up to keep going, right?
Yeah, his second primary to a rental, and he does a lot. And, he has his niche, but he definitely knows how to manage it well. Talks about scaling up to roughly 4 properties and hopefully even further in the future. And, basically showing that anybody can really kind of do that, so.
Yeah, if you're interested in building a real estate portfolio on the side while working your main W-2 job, this is a great interview for you.
Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. We're on episode 36. My name is Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee here, and we're super excited to have Ryan Recinos on the show today. Hey, Ryan, do you mind just giving us a quick background story? Let us know where you're from and how you kind of got here.
Sure. So my name's Ryan Recinos. I grew up in Los Angeles. That's where I'm from originally, my family. Moved to Eugene, Oregon, freshman year of high school. My parents actually opened up a supermarket down there, like a little Latino grocery store.
Oh, really? Is it still there?
It is still there under a different name.
Okay.
They have sold it, retired a few years back.
Nice.
But that's what brought us to Oregon.
Okay.
Met my wife right after high school. We started dating, decided, I'll stay here. And we ended up getting married, moving to Salem, having a family, doing the whole thing. And
Did you become a duck? Did you go to U of O? Or?
I did not, actually. I went to Lane Community College.
Okay.
I have an associate's degree.
Nice.
I got lucky.
You didn't get yourself in debt. Smart.
well, that and I like to think I'm a hard worker, and so I was able to land a job through an internship during my associate.
Okay.
So I didn't.
What year was this?
This was, let's see, man, I'm gonna make myself sound old, but maybe not as old as I think I am. So I graduated high school in 2007.
Okay.
And I took 7 years to complete my associates because I was a great student and I was working, dating.
Yeah.
I had expensive car habits at the time. Didn't have the funds to back them. So
what kind of car?
So I had a 94 Cadillac Seville.
Oh, nice.
And I'm a big lowrider guy.
Yeah.
So I had this thing on air suspension. I did all the work myself.
Yes.
I bought the car for $3,000.
Nice.
And by the time I was done, I was $15,000 in credit card debt for this car. And I thought, you know what? I want to marry my wife. and maybe I should take care of my debt, finish up school, get a job, and you know, be able to buy a house. And so that's what we did. We moved in together. She supported me while I finished school. We met at Walmart. We both worked at Walmart.
Okay.
I was working for my parents, and I was working at Walmart at the time. I was doing the two-job thing, which is why I wasn't doing much school.
Right.
Because I was trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and back then I thought, man, $25,000 a year, this is good money, right? And so we met at Walmart. I quit like the day before our first date. Because I got another job offer, and I was like, no, I'm out of here. Worked at an auto parts store for a few years, and then we moved in together. She supported me while I finished up my associates. I got an internship for a company, a software development company in Eugene.
Oh, okay. Were you doing your associates in?
Yeah, so I have an associates in computer science.
There you
and
go. Great.
My career path has been software development.
Right.
So I got an internship, landed that job. It was a terrible internship because Lane Community College, it's a credit, so you're actually paying to do the internship.
Yeah, you're working. You're
paying to work.
You're paying your employer to work.
Exactly.
Yes, I know
so
that
instead
experience.
of me getting paid, I was paying
Yes.
them. But you know, I kept at it. I worked hard. And
Is that still a thing? I don't know in the tech world for you guys. It was when I was cooking too.
Well, in tech, I used to work. I used to be a software engineer as well. And they paid our interns very well.
So your interns now were paid, but
yeah,
before it was the thing
where
where
I'm
you
at
go
now,
and work for free.
we pay our interns as well. But at least this program at the time, I was paying to be a part of it. And
I need to start a company and partner with Lane Community.
Right? You know, I remember my dad. I think a part of him wanted me to take over the family business. And there's always that small part of, you know, this is for my kids and I want them to take over and do what I did. And I remember the conversation with him. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing you could do. Why are you paying to go work somewhere? And I thought, you know, well, because I think this has potential.
Education, you're investing in yourself, right?
Exactly. It has potential to be really beneficial for me and my wife. And I think this is the right career move. And, you know, we got lucky. It was after 3 months of internship, they offered me another 3-month kind of contract. They said, we'll pay you, you know, minimum wage, whatever, just see how it goes. And it was basically, you know, we have another intern coming, and we have you. Do we keep you or do we move on? So I was fighting for my job.
So there's like one position available.
Yeah.
My God.
So, you know, they didn't outright say it, but I knew it.
Yeah, this was so. Sorry, what year are we in now? This is
probably 2013, 2014.
Okay, so the job market hadn't crazy picked up yet.
No. So it was still, you know, we have one position, 2 people who are fighting for it.
That is a brutal tech company. Is it a tech company?
Yeah. So they did steel management software. It was a desktop application for steel management. So all of your freight, your inventory, everything you do. And their biggest competitor is Excel, and their biggest claim to fame at the time was the new World Trade Center building. The company that, the contracting company that kind of did all of that work used their software.
Okay.
And so I got that job. While I was doing that, my wife and I were talking about buying our first house. I worked that job for 3 years. And about 2 years in, we did purchase our first house. We used a program that I think still exists, but under a different name. At the time, it was called NEDCO. It was Neighborhood Development.
Dev Northwest, maybe now?
Maybe that's what it is.
You got an IDA program?
An IDA, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Talk to our audience about an IDA
so that was
program.
an amazing program. At the time, you know, my wife working retail, and me working minimum wage.
You were working minimum wage for 3 years?
No. For 3 months.
Okay.
And then I bumped up to a little bit higher, but not like crazy high. Not anywhere near where I am today. But at the time, we were combined, maybe making 30-something thousand a year. We were both about 23, 24. And I found out about this IDA program, which is if you meet the income requirements, they're basically going to match you 3-to-1.
Yeah, it stands for, what does it stand for?
Individual development account,
right?
Yeah. And so we had to take a class, and they offer it either like a weekend, go and sit through the weekend, or do it over the course of 4 weeks, one night a week. We went and did it, and you have, realtors come in, you have lenders come in, and they just teach you about what does it take to buy a house.
Okay.
After you go through the class, you meet with, they're kind of like a counselor, and you just talk through what your goal is, and they want your financials, they want to see what your W-2s are, all these things, and then you set up a bank account, basically, at Bank of America or wherever it is.
It can be pretty much any bank,
Any
right?
bank.
They don't care what bank.
Yeah, and you have to meet savings goals. So you and your counselor work on a savings goal. And my wife and I, we wanted to rush through. We wanted our house within a year. But the program goes up to 3 years long.
Okay.
And you can save $1,000 a year. And if you do the full 3 years, what happens is at the end of it, they will give you an additional $9,000. At least at the time we took it. It might be higher now.
Wait, so they gave you 18 total.
Well, no. So you save up $1,000 a year.
Right.
Over 3 years, you save up $3,000.
Okay.
They put additional
3 to
9.
1. Yeah.
So now you'll have 12 if you do the full 3-year program.
Okay.
My wife and I did a fast track of 1 year. We did $1,000, and we actually did it in 9 months. We did the fast track. So within 9 months, we saved up $1,000, and then they gave us $3,000 on top of it.
Okay.
And it's not a loan. It's just a grant. Here's $3,000
Straight up.
to put down as a down payment, as closing costs, whatever you want to use it for.
So you had $4,000 total to put down towards your first house?
We had $4,000 with them. We were saving on the side as well. And I think what we put down on our first house was about $10,000 total.
Okay.
Nice.
My wife and I had been saving for a few years, putting money in mutual funds. We thought that was the right thing to do. It was great. There's risks involved, right? It can be up and down. But at the end of the day, we ended up with a total of about $10,000. We purchased our first home for $200,000.
Nice.
So we put 10, and we actually got the seller to cover our closing costs.
Nice. Perfect.
We were moving in. We said, can you cover it? We're first-time home buyers. And at the time, we were still writing letters. And so we did the whole, we're a young family.
Yep, I did the same thing.
Looking to start our family, have kids, and that sympathy card.
Yeah.
So they covered our closing costs. The house itself was built in 2002.
Wow.
Okay.
So it was a fairly new house, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot. And we bought it already thinking this is going to be our first rental.
So you had that mindset going into it.
Yeah, so my parents owned rentals.
Okay.
So I knew it was possible.
So you had that pedigree then.
And, I knew we could do it. It's just, what does it take to make it happen?
So you already had like this criteria in head. This would make a great single family rental.
Yeah. So I was crunching numbers, and I said, what's the max we're willing to pay with the money we're willing to put down for the, interest rate and all these things we're going to get our mortgage plus taxes plus insurance to a certain number, because our goal was in 5 years, we're going to rent this out, and projections of 5 years, we thought that's going to be where the rent will be at.
Yeah.
It'll cover everything plus cash flow.
At the time when you first bought it, would it have cash flowed if you just rented it right away?
It did, and
holy cow!
And fast forward to
at
6 months.
At 5% down, it was cash flowing. Yeah.
So and fast forward to about 6 months later, I got a job offer in Salem, and we moved, and we turned it into a rental right away.
So you had this 5-year plan ready to go, and immediately threw it out the window.
Yeah. It was quite a journey. We had moved in October. October 31st was our closing date. I remember because
Spooky.
It was Halloween, and my wife and I were so excited that we actually spent the night in the house. We weren't married at the time. We were engaged, but not married. And we realized it's Halloween, and we're in the house, no furniture, no nothing, and people are knocking on the door. We have no candy to give. We felt so bad. And there was this almost terror, realization that, we just bought this very expensive thing together. right? Like we'd never done it. My wife's family, she's the first in her immediate family to own any real estate.
Wow.
They struggled growing up. You know, she doesn't always like to talk about it, but she probably had a very roller coaster upbringing of like stability and things. And so this was this huge moment for her of, we own this. This is ours. And we bought it before we got married so that she could put her maiden name on the title because she wanted to write her maiden name. She wanted it to be like
a big symbol for her.
Yeah, it was big for her. So, so we did that, and then we bought it. We closed October 31st. We ended up getting married in the house on New Year's Eve the same year.
Wow.
We had a nice little deck in the backyard, and we thought, you know what? Instead of spending a ton of money on a honeymoon, we just bought this house. Or instead of spending on a wedding, we just bought the house. We want to go on a nice honeymoon. We want to travel. Let's just do the wedding here, and then we'll go on a honeymoon 6 months whenever we can save money. So we did that. We had some friends over, maybe 30 people or so. It was a decent size for the house.
Perfect.
Got married.
Your parents weren't upset that you didn't have a big wedding?
Well, my mom was.
Yeah.
Most of my family actually didn't come. It was a sore topic for a while.
Yeah.
Of like, I was visiting family, and there was all this like, when are you getting married? You should do it
so
here.
much
You should
pressure
do it
to
there.
have like this big wedding and spend like $30,000.
Yeah, and we were looking at a venue, and it was like a farm, and they were saying, it's $5,000 just for the field, nothing included, no chairs, no food, and we're doing this math, and we're looking at, for the cheap wedding, $10,000-$15,000.
Yeah.
We just spent $10,000, and we want to go to Switzerland for a honeymoon.
Right.
Like, we can't afford all of this. So I called her up Christmas. I was down in California visiting family. I was like, you know what? Why don't we just get married? I'll be home next week. Let's just do it. I'll call up a cake person. We'll call up, make it happen. And so it was this very last minute thing. But I don't think either of us regrets it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing we regret is maybe not having more of our immediate family there.
Right.
But again, life moves so fast, and it's just one of those things now.
I mean, I feel like there's a huge amount of pressure to spend a ton on a wedding and bring everyone there. And does it set you up for long-term success?
No,
if it's a Chinese wedding, you might actually earn money on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Asian weddings,
they just give you cash. So
Right.
hopefully
Right.
you do it cheap enough, you make some money.
Well, and honestly, so we spent $500 on the wedding, everything, food, everything. And
Perfect.
yeah, family was a little upset, but they still gave us money when we went back down to visit.
Yeah.
They still handed us money, so we ended up making money off of that for the honeymoon anyways. And then we waited 6 months and went on our honeymoon. And while we were in Switzerland, I got a call to do an interview for a company here in Salem.
Oh, nice.
And so we landed back in Los Angeles. I did my first interview at my grandmother's house, like 2 hours of sleep, jet lag, like crazy. And then we were driving up. We were supposed to drive back up to Oregon like 2 days later. And they called me back and said, hey, would you like to come in for a second round in person tomorrow type thing, like Monday, and it's Saturday. I'm like, well, I guess we're driving up tomorrow. So I drove all the way home, did my interview, got the job, and I commuted for about a month. And then I told my wife, Amanda, I was like, this drive from Eugene to Salem sucks. It's 75 miles each way.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like,
and
I'm leaving at 5.
Drive,
I'm leaving at 5 in the morning to get to work on time. And I don't get home sometimes till after 8 because you hit Salem traffic, you hit Corvallis traffic, Albany traffic, Eugene traffic. It was bad. So I convinced her, let's leave the house that we bought that has her name on it.
Yeah.
The first.
You'll still have your name on it?
Yeah, and it still has our name on it. But let's move up. We'll go back to an apartment because we don't want to jump into buying anything.
I mean, you just bought 6 months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't know the area.
Right. Don't know the area. Haven't got a down payment
I've
ready.
driven to work and back, and that's it.
Well, can I ask too, like, did you get a pretty huge pay bump from switching to this?
Yeah. So I was making, by the time I left the company I was at in Eugene, they were paying me $40,000 a year.
Okay.
Was my salary. The offer I got here was 81,000.
Oh.
So I doubled.
Yeah, you
It
can't
was,
say no
it
to
was
that,
a
right?
no-brainer,
Yeah.
right? So, which was great because we moved up to Salem. We got an apartment off of the Lancaster area, Northeast Salem. It was super convenient to get to places. We were ready to start our family. And when we found out my wife was pregnant, we thought, well, we don't want to be in this apartment.
Better
So
buy a house.
So we had a year lease. We broke the year 9 months into it again.
Yeah.
And bought a house, our second house in Salem.
Nice.
And that's where my son was born. And again, it was Northeast Salem. We liked the area, and same criteria, right? We wanted that 3-bed, 2-bath starter home. We knew we wanted
you
it
were
for a
gonna
rental.
Rent it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So-
you'd already seen the success. From
Exactly,
renting it.
exactly. We were renting that one. We were making, and it was cash flowing like $100 or something.
That's great.
It was really not much, but to see that within 9 months of buying it was like, this is awesome.
I mean, since you only put 10,000 down,
Right.
you're gonna make that investment back
Exactly.
pretty quickly.
Exactly. Now we have this place in Eugene. If something was to happen, we need to move back. We got a place already, So it was great. We went for the same thing. That's actually how we met Ashley. We were going to open houses in Salem, trying to figure out what area do we want to live in. Again, same criteria. We want to pay $200,000, and prices had climbed up a little bit.
What year was this by
This
this point?
was 2017 now.
Okay, and then
Just before 2017.
Yeah, and the Salem
2016.
market, especially in that area,
Yeah.
was still way behind Portland. Like Portland had already started in 2017, had started
Yeah.
to going up quite a bit. But
Yeah,
you could
this was-
still get good buys.
I was gonna
was
say compared to
2016.
like Eugene and Salem.
So my Eugene property was estimated at like 240
after
at the
couple
time.
years, yeah.
What we were looking at here, they were at like maybe 210
Okay.
and below.
Oh, okay.
Most of them we looked at were 210. We met Ashley at a different open house, not one that we made an offer on. It was her first listing, and she was real cool. She was chatting with us, and she felt like a go-getter.
Yeah.
The realtor that we first were working with here was, we'd call her up, we'd show her a listing, she'd show up. She was almost no interest because most of her listings were $1 million listings. Why does she
Right.
want to deal with 200,000? She's doing a favor for a friend from Eugene, and so we ended up letting her go, working with Ashley. And Ashley, she's a saint. She'll tell you the horror story. Every house we went to, I was looking at it, I was like, well, nope, I don't like this, I don't like that. The price is too high. Here's what I want to offer them. And she was like, you can't do that in this market. You can't offer 200 when they're asking 210. I said, that's what I want to offer. And so she put in a few offers, and of course they got rejected.
Right.
And she sat us down and she had us talk with us of like, you need to change your mindset. This isn't going to work. And she was completely right. She was completely right. But we got very lucky. And I found this house that was for sale by owner, and the sale had fallen through.
Oh, so they'd already had a fail.
They
So
already
that's
had
a perfect target.
They
yeah.
already had a contract for 202,000, and it fell through. The guy put it back up the next day, and it was like 2 blocks from my apartment. So I just ran over there, and I talked to the guy. He was there. Like, I don't even know why I went over. Maybe to look, but the guy's there.
Yeah.
And he's doing work, and I started talking to him, and I called up Ashley, and she showed up, and I said, we'll give you the exact same deal.
Yeah.
202,000.
Yeah.
And we'll close in less than 30 days, whatever it is,
Nice.
whatever it takes.
Yeah,
And-
he'd already accepted that
Exactly,
offer, so he can't say no to
exactly.
that, right?
Exactly. So it worked out great. We got our second property. It was about a year and a half after our first one.
Yeah.
This time, of course, we didn't get any sort of help. We had to save our own down payment, but with the difference in salary, we were able to do that.
Okay, yeah, I was curious, like,
Relatively quick.
because the first property you had both your names on it, right?
Yeah.
And
So
then
this one also had both our names.
Okay.
Amanda was not working at the time, but with the difference in salary, so in Eugene, she was making about 25, and I was making 40 towards the end.
Yeah.
So we were still making about 20,000 more a year total. So we were able to save another like 10,000 or so. And we did basically the same deal.
That's
We
still
put
really
5%
good saving. I
down.
mean, you guys are good savers. That's a pretty quick turn.
When we have a goal in mind, we're very good savers. Otherwise, man, I tell you, I can spend money like nobody's business.
Get a couple
You
of
still have that car? You still have that car, by the way?
I don't. But I got a new one, and we'll get to that one too, because I'll tell you, I could spend money. When my wife laughs, she'll go to the Ulta Beauty or whatever, and she'll walk out with 6 things, and she's like, "Oh, it was $80," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just spend $5,000 on one piece." But we did the same deal, closed on that house in May, and then my son was born in that house July. So we were able to have our first child in our house. Didn't have to have him in the apartment, and again, that security that me and my wife felt of like, not only do we own a house, we own 2. Now we have something to give our child down the line, right? We have this security, and we stayed there for 2 years. Yes, we stayed there for 2 years. It was a great place. It fit us fine. But then when we found out we were pregnant with our second child, and we thought, well, this is a 3-bed, 2-bath. We need something a little bigger. And my wife really fell in love with the West Salem area.
Oh, okay.
And so we looked at some places out there. We called up Ashley again. We said, "Hey, Ashley, we need a bigger place." And she found us a 4-bed, 3-bath.
Nice.
That we ended up buying for $350. And this one, we weren't able to save up as much as we had wanted. Kids are a little more expensive, so our ability to save had been cut a little bit. Amanda hadn't been working. She was actually going back to school, and so we had extra expenses. And so what we did for this property, the one we currently live in, is we actually cashed out old 401ks.
Oh.
So we took Amanda's old 401k, my old 401k, plus money we had saved up, and we put down $50,000 on the house.
Did you take a loan against your 401k?
No,
or
we withdrew it. We cashed them out. We knew we were going to have a tax hit that year. Early withdrawal penalties, all that thing.
It comes out as income as well, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were expecting that, but we knew that we needed a bigger place. We knew that with the 2 properties, we probably had enough deductions to offset it a little bit. And with, just our ability to kind of plan ahead and know that that's coming, we were able to save up some money. And we ended up buying the house, having my daughter, and then getting a $10,000 tax bill that we knew was coming, paid off, and don't regret the decision at all.
Well, I mean, it's not like you were just taking out that money and pushing it all on like the dream house. It was more like you're taking out that money consciously from your retirement account and being like, I'm building another retirement asset, because you had instead of selling your second home, you converted it to a rental again.
And both of these 401ks were from prior companies that were rolled over. We weren't putting anything into them. New company couldn't put anything into them.
Yeah.
And the interest they were making was nothing, right? So when we were running the numbers, running our Excel spreadsheets of like, what does 30 years of this amount look like with the interest that we're getting with no additional money going in versus what does 30 years of the house look like? The house was way beyond what we ever could have done in those accounts. So we thought this really makes sense financially, and it really makes sense for our family.
Yeah, I mean, you're appreciating on a $250,000 or $300,000 asset instead of whatever it was in your retirement.
Right, it was like $30,000 or something that we had combined.
Yeah, and you get the money that you took out, you get a leverage to get like that $350.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The money in your account is 100% of your money.
Exactly.
That's growing, which is the tough thing.
So it really, it was worth it. We don't regret it. We actually, with the way the market's been, we made that money back within 3 months.
Right.
Wow.
Like it was really a great decision for us. It got us where we needed to be for our family, the school district we wanted to be for our kids, and it allowed us now to have 2 rentals. Right. We now had 2 rental properties, one in Eugene, one in Salem, and both of them were cash flowing.
So the second one is cash flowing right away too.
Yeah.
Well, at 202.
Yeah, we got the same deal, and so our mortgages were like $1,100,
Yeah.
and we were renting them for $15.
Nice.
And the one here in Salem, we don't have a property manager. We were doing it ourselves, so that was all us.
Yeah, how was that experience? Did you like, read up on it? How did you figure out how to do that part?
Yeah, we kind of took advantage. The property manager in Eugene helped us out to, with contracts and things like that, getting started. He said,
Did they charge a small fee for that?
No,
or
they're
were
already
just
charging me down there.
Oh,
so
because
he
you were a
just said,
client. He just helped you set it
Here's some blank contracts. Here's, fill in the blanks. Here's what you need to do.
up. Awesome.
Here's how you would screen tenants, things like that. We actually use a online tool right now called Turbo Tenant.
Okay.
That does the screening. It does the advertising. It lets you create, it generates a web page for you.
Oh, wow.
That you can share on Facebook and wherever.
Huh.
It even lets you do rent collection. And,
Is it like a subscription service or?
No, actually, it's free. For landlords, the way they make their money is they charge processing fees to
like an application
potential.
fee.
Probably
Yeah.
renter's insurance too for the tenants. Because I know apartments.com does that.
They might offer renters insurance, but
Yeah.
they don't require it through them. Because I know my current tenants have farmers as
Yeah.
their renters insurance.
They do require you to have rental insurance or
Yeah,
something. but
and
they don't
I require it too
Yeah.
on all my properties. But the way they make money is the application fee and the credit check fee. They
Yeah.
charge those to the tenants directly. And then if you're paying your rent through that tool, ACH or anything is free, but if you do like a debit card, credit card type thing, then they
They'll
charge
charge
you.
a percentage.
Which I'd rather not collect through credit card. Anyways, I prefer the ACH method. My current tenants actually just pay me on Zelle.
Yeah.
It's convenient. I know there's a lot of debate whether it's good or bad, but it's convenient.
Yeah.
So, I get the rent right away, and,
No, I use apartments.com, and I definitely implore my clients or my tenants to not use credit cards.
Right.
Like, connect it to your bank account, set it on
Yeah,
automatic.
exactly.
Hopefully they have the money to cover it.
Right.
Set
it, forget
it's
it.
not
They
always
don't-
the case.
They
but-
don't get charged. You know that the money's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There's no issues. So, and it's those two properties have been great for us. The one in Eugene, actually, we got new tenants recently. That's renting for $19.50 right now.
Wow.
Now I am no longer paying $1,100. I'm paying a little bit more.
Taxes and insurance went up.
Well, and we ended up taking cash out
pulled out some
on
cash.
both of them.
Uh-huh.
And then the one here in Salem is renting. My tenants just signed a new lease. They're going to be renting for $1,700
Wow.
coming up. But those were great. We have our accounts for each property, and so watching those grow and knowing that's my money but not my money.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still nice.
It's a
because-
business. You think about it like a business.
and
yeah.
if worst case anything ever happens, that's still my money.
Yeah.
I can use it to make sure my family doesn't go hungry.
Yep.
But if I have repairs, if I have anything, the
Pipe
house
works or
pays for
something.
itself. I had there was an issue with fleas and ticks at the one here in Salem, and so they called an exterminator. They went out, and I reimbursed them for the charge because as a landlord, I feel that's out of their control.
Right.
The neighbor has a bunch of cats. They have
Oh,
fleas in the yard. That's not a them thing. That's kind of a me thing.
Yeah.
So I reimburse them and then I pay for things, and the property just kind of covers it. I don't feel that
Yeah.
hit, and it's a write-off, right?
Yep.
I can now deduct that expense as this is something I'm doing for my property, so my taxes get a little bit of a break, and the property, basically the tenants pay for their own service through me
Yep.
paying for their service, because the additional cash flow, it's a win-win for me, it feels.
Do you have a certain amount that you calculate as a buffer for these types of things?
Yeah,
emergencies?
I like to keep, if I can, 6 months of rent reserved. Most of the time I don't. Most of the time I have about 3 months, which is still good.
Right.
But I like to, in my head, say what I really want is 6 months and calculate how long it'll take me to get there. Use whatever budgeting tool I can find to say, if I'm making X amount, how long will it take me to get there? How far off am I from that goal? 2 months from now, 3 months from now, where do we need to adjust? Is it I have too much expense somewhere? Is it just that's part of doing business? But 3 months is the minimum. Like if I'm below 3 months, I start to worry. My wife starts to worry.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying not to fast forward too quick, but we had an issue with one of our other properties where we didn't have a tenant for 3 months. It was, their lease ended New Year's Eve, and January is a weird time to move in. We didn't get a tenant until March 1st.
And where was this?
So this is one of my Texas properties.
Oh, okay, so you also invested in
Yeah,
Texas.
so roll back to, we just bought our home that we're in, working, had our second child, and then COVID hit. And COVID was a wild time. Some people were really struggling, and some people like ourselves were really doing great.
Yep.
We had a bunch of equity in all of our properties. We decided to invest in another rental. I have a cousin who's in San Antonio.
Okay.
And he said, hey, San Antonio market is hot. Prices are $200,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath. I'm like, that's my sweet spot. I've done it twice.
I'm used to doing this.
I know the numbers
I know this.
so
Not
well.
3-3, 3-2.
I don't even have to update my spreadsheet.
Exactly. I know exactly how this works. Like, let me look. So I started looking. I connected with his realtor, didn't like her. Connected with another realtor who, again, such a good realtor, go-getter. It's just like all virtual, right?
Yeah.
I have never met this person in real life. It was all through WhatsApp. We were walking around property. She's showing me everything. She's pointing things out. She's like, oh, look, there's some water spots here. There's some this, that. She knew what I wanted.
Right.
And she made sure that that's the thing she was showing me. And we ended up closing on our first property in Texas, February of 2020. No, not February of 2020. Maybe it was April of 2020, because we were working from home.
About
at
a
the
month
time.
after lockdown.
Yeah,
started,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
About a month after lockdown, we took advantage. We cashed out our Eugene property. We pulled $50,000 out of
nice.
that. So our new mortgage, taxes, insurance is $1,300. But again, the property at the time was already renting for 17 something.
So your payment went up $300 for
It went up about
$50,000.
It went up about $200.
Okay,
got us $50,000 in cash, but $200,000 in
Man, money
in
used to be so
property,
cheap.
right? I know. And the best part, so we refinanced our personal residence, our primary residence, down to like 2.2%.
Amazing.
When we refinanced this property, our original interest rate was 4%. When we refinanced as investors this time, right? Because now it's not our primary residence, the interest actually came down to 3%.
Wow.
So we got a better interest rate as investors than we did when we were first-time buyers, pulled cash out,
Wow.
and bought another property at 3% again in Texas.
Wow. Yeah.
So we went from 2 rentals to 3, and we thought, man, this is great. This worked out so well. We waited a few months. We made sure that things were good. We got a tenant. We were starting to see cash flow there. We got our current tenants in Eugene with the new mortgage. We're still making money. This is wonderful. Let's do it again. We have another property. Let's leverage it, right?
Yep.
Salem market's also up. So we did the same thing with our Salem property. We contacted the lender that we worked with in Texas. We said, hey, we got another property. We want to pull cash out. We want to buy another house in Texas.
San Antonio still?
In San Antonio. So we did it all kind of together. We started the refinance while we started looking. As soon as I found the property, we were already signing for the refinance.
Nice.
So the cash was going to be deposited in my account like within a week. We found the property. We made an offer. The first house we bought for $200. This one again $202.
Nice.
We just have a thing for that 200.
The 200 3-bed, 2-bath houses.
Exactly. Yeah. Both 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Nice size yard. And we ended up closing on that one. That one actually has an HOA. That's the only house we have with an HOA. It's like 125 a year.
What is it?
A year?
Oh, a year.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
it's so low. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm not worried about it. And the tenants actually pay it too,
Oh, okay.
which is fine. But we ended up closing on that one. Let's see, May, June.
Okay. Oh,
So
wow.
like
Quick.
three
Yeah.
months. So we did within less than 6 months.
You went from 3 to 5, just
we
like.
exactly we doubled our total portfolio, and we didn't even leave the house. Like we were doing it all remote.
Oh, because
you
it's
know.
COVID.
Yeah, it's COVID.
everything.
I'm texting people. I'm emailing, and the only time that
Docs come from the notary at
yeah,
your
the
house.
notary
just
showed
sign
up.
it.
We signed at home, and then they sent them, and it was done. Checks deposited. And
I've never been out there, checked them out. Yeah.
Yeah, so now my cousin did look at the property.
Oh, he looked at them for you. That's nice.
Which helped me feel comfortable. He went and saw, and he was like, "Yeah, they look good. No major issues." The realtor was great, but I've still never been out to see these Texas properties.
Probably won't.
And I
There's
keep
is
saying
there a
like I need
reason
to I need to go out. Well, I need to go visit my cousin.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
there's
yeah.
a good reason.
But it is, it's one of those like they kind of take care of themselves.
Uh-huh.
They were doing really well for a while. They were doing really well. Last year we had some issues with one of the Texas properties. The tenant just up and left.
It's been there.
So it was my wife hates the experience. I thought it was not as bad as it could have been. So we had this tenant who was supposed to move in with the whole family, but I guess during the process of moving to San Antonio, her and her partner split up. So she ended up with the kids in San Antonio without her partner, and I think financial issues probably happened.
Yep.
So she was always late on her rent, which incurred fees and all these things. And then she skipped out about 8 months into it. She was just, I'm gone, don't know what to do. My cousin took care of it. He went, checked everything, did repairs, all this stuff.
Did you guys go to court or try to go to small claims court?
So we thought about it. We tried. We did send notices. But at the end of the day, we thought, honestly, with all the fees she had paid, we were 6 months ahead of rent.
Oh.
We don't need to chase down 3 months and struggle. Let's just get it cleaned up, get a new tenant in it. We'll send a few letters, see if anything happens. But if not, why waste our time trying to deal with it?
Yeah, I've gone to small claims court. I've won. I still haven't seen that money.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
right.
just it's on their record. They can choose not to pay it and
Exactly.
let it hurt them. But
and that's exactly what my cousin was saying, because he had done it, and he said, honestly, putting
It's
the
more just
eviction-
like spite to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
and
actually
that's why I
help
did
you.
it.
Well, and you can get an eviction on someone without having to go to small claims court, but
Yeah.
that really kind of puts it there of like they're going to struggle to find things.
Yeah.
The reason we didn't do it was she had little kids, and we thought, honestly, if this was something where like she had destroyed walls or
Right.
things, for sure.
yeah.
But she did no damage. She just skipped town, probably because that's where the opportunity to provide for her children was.
Yeah.
We're okay. We can weather this storm.
It's the cost of being a landlord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could have been so much worse. Let's just get the place rented, move on.
Yep.
And so we were able to do that, and we ended up, not going in the hole at all because, like I said, she had been paying late fees. So the repairs we had to do and everything, by the time we got it rented about a month later, we were still ahead.
Yeah.
And we felt good about it. That property has switched over 2 more times now, tenants. That one I seem to struggle with a little bit. Nobody wants to sign an extra lease. But, it's still, every time we sign a new lease with a new tenant, the rent goes up a little bit, and we end up making a little more money. So it's not bad at all.
Oh, that's great.
And average between the 4, each of them cash flows about $400 a month.
Okay.
So, just in that, with the 4 properties, with mortgages and everything on them, we're cash flowing about $1,200 a month.
So every couple months you have like basically reserves for a month.
Exactly.
For one of the payments. So
Yeah.
between them you can build a reserve pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And, if one of them is lower than the other, You can they can help each other out, but we always have this buffer that, my wife and I know is no matter what we do at this point, there's a buffer there because these properties keep building into it, which is, something that just 10 years ago we couldn't say we had.
And what are you seeing equity-wise on the properties there in San Antonio compared to what you've seen here?
So they're not as fast. Those ones I've had now for just over 2 years.
Couple of years now, right? Yeah.
I mean, they have about 50,000, maybe 70,000 in equity.
Okay.
Oh, total?
Total.
Okay.
Between the two of them,
I think between the two of them, about 70,000. So they're probably like 35,000, 40,000 a piece or something.
okay.
The ones in Eugene, that one, last time I kind of looked at what the estimates are, was like 390 or something. Like,
wow.
It's almost doubled.
And we know the price point was 200 because you only buy at 200.
Yeah, exactly. and so that's why I was, when we met last time, I was thinking like, maybe it's time to do another, cash out or a HELOC or something. The only problem I have is I don't know where I can buy another thing for 200.
Oh yeah, and with the interest rates where they're at.
Yeah. Especially buying as an investor now, the interest rates are even higher. And now I just heard the new, like, if you have better credit or higher down payment, that's going to affect you a little bit more.
That thing is, there's a weird media thing about that.
Okay.
It's, if you have better credit, you still get a better rate.
I assumed, you always hear the horror side of things.
The big thing it changed is like top tier used to be 740.
Yeah.
So now top tier is 780.
Okay.
So if you have a 780 credit score, you're not gonna really get any hits or anything. Or if you're putting, over 25% down.
Yeah. Which is the other struggle now, right? Buying as an investor, when the properties in Texas I had to buy with like 20% plus closing costs.
Yep.
My wife and I, sometimes we look back and it's like, did we really spend $100,000 in a year? Like, we don't have $100,000. Like, yeah, it was crazy expensive. We should have done it the way we did in the past, right? Just move the family house to house.
Yeah, but I mean, in
with
the
the
same
family,
sense,
it's hard.
it's still the business, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you just pulled money from your other real estate.
And we don't regret anything. Like, we're making money. We're building financial future. If for some reason my kids want to move to Texas, like, we have a place that they can move to. Like we have all these things now, and so it makes sense. It's just one of those, I tell the story. My grandfather, when he bought his place in North Hollywood, he paid $72,000, and they'd lived in this place for 30 plus years.
Oh,
right?
God.
Like,
Yeah,
the house is worth $1 million.
Wow.
But when he tells the story, he goes, I overpaid, but my brother lived next door and I wanted the families to be close, so I did what I had to do. And you can see that there's a little bit of like, probably could have done better. But at the same time, you're like, you got $1 million.
You made $1 million
in equity right here. Like,
it could have been 70,000.
You couldn't do better. Like,
no, it could have been.
But yeah,
It
exactly.
was probably overpaid by $1,000.
He said his brother paid 68.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you also bought months later. Like, that happens. But
that's funny.
yeah, so it's more of that, of like, had we done the house hacking thing, we probably could have continued to put 10,000 down.
It's tough moving your family around.
That-
You got 2 young kids.
2 young kids. We were like, there's
increasingly
no
more
way.
challenging to do that.
Oh yeah. My wife has already told me she's never moving unless we're buying a multi-million-dollar house somewhere. Which, who knows? Maybe one day, but not today.
Yeah. So what's now that you've got this nice nest egg set up, that's kind of a well-oiled machine that's running, what is your kind of next step? Are you going to keep going on that same path? Or are you going to go into a more unit?
We've done single-family homes. They've been great. We wanted to do duplexes at one point, but the cost in Oregon was higher than what we were willing to pay. It wouldn't cash flow the same way, and I know that there's probably investors who do it and they put in sweat equity and they make that money back, the whole Burr movement and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I got a full-time job. I'm not trying to do that. My wife, she works part-time and takes care of the house the rest of the time. Like, she's got more than a full-time job with the kids. Neither one of us has that that sweat equity time. So we're looking for that, where do the numbers work where I can buy it, rent it quick, and single family seems to be that. What we want to do, our long-term goal, and, on our drive home out to West Salem, there's one major road, Wallace Road, it's called. It's quite a long stretch. As you're driving down there and you kind of exit town, there's one last gas station, a Shell gas station, and right next to it, there's an apartment complex. And my wife wants to buy that. It's not for sale. We know it's not for sale
Just
yet.
randomly, you guys
But
go
she
by
likes-
it and she just likes it.
She likes
yeah.
it. We drive by it every day on our way home, on our way to work, and she likes it. It's a 16 unit, I think I looked at it the other day. And so she wants to buy that. And what she has said she's willing to do, which, is something that we are in a position to do, is sell our properties to move into that, right? Not today.
Right.
Obviously, it's not something we're doing today, but, taking that equity that we have in the houses that have been great to us and leveraging that to get something even more that's going to cash flow more, that's going to
Scale faster.
scale
Yeah.
faster, and so that's something we're looking into eventually doing is moving into more of that multi-unit kind of commercial size. That's our long-term goal, and when we set a long-term goal, we're gonna hit it. It's just a matter of when, and how.
Yeah, and the nice thing is with commercial is that the value of your property is based on income alone,
Right.
Which is going to be really nice. And something that one of my investor mentors and friends told me is, you have a single family house, you raise your rent $100, you make $100.
Right.
You got a 16 unit, you raise your rent $100, you made $1,600.
Exactly.
You know,
The numbers look great. It's the biggest issue is, you need a lot more to get into the
of
door.
course.
Yeah.
But, we have 4 properties
Yep.
that we could sell, right? And we have combined between all of them, we probably have, 400,000 in equity. Like that's a big chunk of money
Yep.
that we could put into something like this. So, we'll see what the market does, what comes for sale. We've looked at a few other multi-units that do come on the market just to see what they look like, what it would cost, what the cash flow might be. And most of the time the numbers look great. It's just, do we have enough? No, we don't have enough yet. Let's keep working towards it, building that. Before we started, I was talking about my Salem property, the neighbor next door, the cat lady, very sweet lady. But she's getting older. She lives by herself. So I told her last time I was there, I said, if you're ever interested in selling, let me know. I'd love to buy this. I know that the house rents well.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is, I need a good deal on it. And I think she's the original owner based on what I've seen through the records. So she's
Wow.
probably got it paid off.
This is a flea and tick house.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I know there's a lot of work. I got to rip out carpets. I got to paint. I got to do all these things. But if I can convince her that like 220 would be a good price, she gets basically all of that cash because
It's paid off.
it's paid off. I'm still getting a decent deal where if I put another 20,000-30,000 into it at 250, I can still rent it, market, and make some money. And what I've been looking at there is, do I do like a hard money lender, buy it cash, and then refinance it once I'm done with the work?
Have you ever looked into seller financing?
I've looked at it as an idea. I have not talked to her about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to scare her away by being that pushy investor guy of
Right.
like,
Of course.
hey, when do you want to sell? When do you want to sell? But more like, when you're ready, come talk to me, and whatever works best for the both of us, we'll make it happen. Because I would love to pick up a 5th property and just have that ready to go, more cash flow, and when my wife and I are ready to buy our multi-unit, we got 5 now to go and sell, and who knows, maybe that's 600,000-700,000 we put down towards a $2 million property or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look out of state, you might be able to find that.
Right. My only worry out of state is I don't have enough cousins in all the states to check them out for me.
Yeah.
I've heard people have success doing it. I've done half of that baby step, but if you know people who are investing out of state that are making it work, let me know. I'd love to hear their story so I can.
We can talk about. I have a property in South Dakota that we can talk
Okay.
about later.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'd say that I have a buddy. I have friends that make it work, and I have friends who are having problems.
Right, and that's my worry is if I have problems in my Oregon properties,
Mhm.
I can get to them. If I have problems in my San Antonio properties, I have a cousin who can get to them.
Yeah.
If I have problems in a,
Alabama.
Florida property, Alabama property, I can't get to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can call people all day, but there's time zone differences. I mean, even if something goes horribly wrong, I got to get on a plane, fly 5 hours. It's a full day just to get there. Like,
Yeah, and you got to put full trust in your property management out
exactly,
there. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
they're not. They don't always have your best interest in mind.
right. Even the best ones have way bigger contracts than me,
Yeah.
to where I'm probably lower on their
Yep.
on their totem pole than I want to be.
So if you were to like recommend to somebody, hey, that was asking you about getting into real estate,
Yeah.
thinking about investing as a kind of like you're doing as a side job or a side hustle, what would you recommend to them?
So what I tell to everybody I know who's looking at buying a house, right? Not an investment. Just I'm thinking about buying a house. I always say look at the IDA program, see if you qualify. Because honestly, why wouldn't you want free money?
Oh, by the way, that program that you mentioned, the 3-to-1, it's now up to 5-to-1.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
That is
Dev Northwest matches, not for everyone, but they can go up to 5-to-1.
That's incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of money that you're getting for free for very minimal effort, and it helps you to build that consistency and saving. Right, the requirements are low enough to where anyone can get in. So that's my first thing. Anytime somebody says, I'm looking at buying a house, I know you own houses, how would I do it? I say, first step, talk to a lender. Find out where you are today, right? That's what me and my wife did. We went and talked to a lender and we said, what's our credit score? What do we need to work on? What can we afford? And where do we need to get to be able to confidently say we're ready to buy a house, right? Lenders are great. They'll work with you a year in advance. They don't charge you anything.
Nope.
They're willing to talk and run your credit and do all this stuff and help you get there. My wife and I did that. We built our credit. We paid off debt. We did all those things. And a year later, we were very solid, 720 credit scores, ready to go.
Nice.
We did the IDA program, which is the second step I always tell people to do. And if you're not looking at buying today, do as long of the program as you can, right? Take advantage of the 3 years. If you really need something sooner, talk to them once you're in it about cutting the 3 years in half, because they can do a fast track program for 3 years. If you can save the money, they will pay it out. Right?
Wow.
You just got to get in it.
I mean, this is important advice too, because so many people just want to have like instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want to fill out a form and be able to buy a house right away.
Right.
But that it's not always the case. And if you take a little bit of a year, you might get $15,000
Right.
for free.
Right. You never have to pay that money back. Even if I sell the house, I don't have to pay that money back. That's mine forever.
Yep.
And then after all of that, I would say then, go to open houses, find a realtor who's really motivated to help you, not one who's, just looking for their next paycheck, because it can be a very long process. As a lot of people will tell you, with the market the way it is, sometimes you could go a year putting in offers before you're getting anything.
Yeah.
So you got to have someone who is really trying to help you out, looking out for your best interest, who's willing to tell you your views on what you're going to be able to get are not realistic. We need to change them. But having that good team, I think, is the first step. Once you have that and you get your first property, if you're looking at going to that next step, I would say just start saving money until you can get a down payment. All you need is a down payment.
Yep.
And you can buy a house. And once you have that, because if you've already bought a house, you've already shown to lenders that you financially are a good risk, right? You don't have late payments, you've been there for a year, whatever it might be. They know that you're a good risk. And if you can show them you have enough money to buy another property, down payment, and that your property is going to rent, just do that. Buy the house next door, buy the, whatever it is.
Yep.
Especially if you don't have that family, right? Just
Yeah, easier
take
to do
advantage.
the younger you are and the less family
and
things
before you
have.
know it, you have 2 or 3, then it just gets easier and easier because now you can pull money out of those. And,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say at all I'm an expert, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's people who are way more advanced than I am and could teach me so much. But I know people who are trying to get where I'm at, and these are the steps I did. And it's not for everybody. Some people might find different steps. I'm sure, a lot of people buy a house, sell it, buy another house, and that's great too because you're still building that equity. But if you're looking at buying and becoming an investor or a landlord and having that long term, the best thing I can say is get that good team, get that IDA, get that first house, and then take that next step on what do I need to do to get my next one?
Yep.
Right? Do I need another 10,000? Do I need another 20,000? Whatever it might be, and just work towards that. That's your goal now. Make it happen. And it sounds so easy when I say it, like, just 10, 20,000, whatever. But, like my wife and I said 5 years. In 5 years, we want to buy a second house. And life happened to where we did it within 8 months.
Yep.
So don't make a goal of I want another house within 3 months. That's unrealistic.
Right.
But 5 years is great because most things you read, it says if you're not going to live in your house for 5 years anyways, it's probably not the right investment.
Oh, no, because you might, if you sell it, you might lose all
Exactly.
that you gained.
So if you plan 5 years and you can make it happen in 3, that's even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 5 years is such a short time span when you look at, all the things that you've already done. Why not? Why not say in 5 years I'd like to buy a second house and work towards that and, try to make it happen in 3 if you can. 5 years I feel is a very realistic timeline for a lot of people, for most people,
Yeah.
to save a down payment.
Yeah. And you were talking about like not being an expert, but I think just getting started, having all that experience, makes you more of an expert than most people.
I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's like,
Well, and just showing that it's something that you can do. You can like create a business on the side while working your main job.
Right.
Like you don't
Right.
have to be spending a crazy amount of time doing these things.
No, and I don't put in hours and hours, all year long. And I mean, content creation is way more work than buying a property. I have, when I'm ready to buy, it's a month worth of emails and sign some papers and write a check. And yeah, there's stuff throughout the year, the AC went out,
Yeah, you have to-
the whatever, but a good property manager helps out. I'm fairly handy. I can do most things. And so communication, I think, is really key because if my tenant messages me and says, hey, the floors or whatever, or the AC's not working or the whatever it might be, I can say, okay, do you need me there today or can I come this weekend and do it? And usually the answer is this weekend's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll go out this weekend. I'll make that time. I'll do what I need to do. I'll be able to look at other things, make sure everything's good. And then I don't have to see them for a few months, right? So it's work, but it's not as much work as some things, some side hustles. And once you really kind of get the hang of it, I think it just becomes easier.
Yeah. Totally.
Totally. And, speaking of content creation, if people are looking to get a hold of you, social media, otherwise, how can we find you?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I do have Instagram. I barely ever use it. That's actually the only thing that's on my Instagram is pictures of my lowrider.
Yes.
And I forgot to tell that story, so
Oh.
I'll get to it. But you can probably find me on Facebook, Ryan Recinos. That I use that to communicate with family and
Okay.
stuff. Instagram, it's Midget Cheetah, but it's spelt incorrectly because I made it when I was in 8th grade.
I love it.
So MIGIT TCHEETAH.
Nice.
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn just because, I do have a professional career, and that's where I do most of my networking. It's just Ryan Recinos. Man, I probably have a YouTube I've never used also. But, if you're trying to get a hold of me, these guys have my contact info.
Yeah.
Reach out to them. I love sharing my story. I love helping out. I've never been one of those people who says that, whatever I've done, I have to keep to myself because otherwise you'll take it away from me.
Right. There's plenty of food out there.
I have what I have, and if you can have something too, great. Let's do it together. Let's, let's do a partnership if that's what you're into. Like I believe firmly that everybody can do it, and nobody has to be left out in order for others to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
It's a great lesson.
Oh.
So to finish things up, then we got to hear about your lowrider story.
Okay, so my lowrider. So during COVID, while we were buying houses, and we had some money, I invested in meme stock. I bought AMC stock.
Yes.
Right.
You hit AMC.
Oh, man, so I hit it for what we'll call it. So I put $1,000.
Were you on the Reddit?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so you're a Reddit guy. Okay, cool.
I was.
I love it.
So I put $1,000. I was like, I got $1,000 sitting in the bank that I'm willing to lose.
Yep.
Right. Like, I'm not a big gambler. I don't invest in stocks, individual stocks. It's too much of a risk for me. But this time I thought, you know what? $1,000. Let's see what happens. And I put it in, and I watched it crash for a while. And I was like, dang, I lost $1,000. And then I watched it climb back up. And it got to a point where I had $9,000 in this stock. And I was like, there's no way it's going to go higher than this, right? I had been talking to my wife. My dream car had always been a 64 Impala since I was little. And I'd been looking at them on Instagram. And I was like, man, I really want to buy one. Really, really want to buy one. But I kept prioritizing, life, future,
Yep.
family.
Yep.
So I kept putting it off. I said when I was 25, I put it off. I said when I was 30, put it off. And so I was telling myself at 35, I am going to turn 34 this year. But I kept telling myself at 35, and my wife goes, Ryan, be real. If you don't buy it, you're never going to buy it. Because knowing me, I'm just keep putting it off, putting it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this $9,000 in stocks, and I thought, there's a Impala for sale that drives, completely rusted out, but it drives up in Washington. The guy wants $12,000. I'm going to cash out my stock, and I'm going to see what happens. So I cashed out my stock, and I drove up to Washington to see this. I took a coworker friend of mine. We drove up, drove it around. It drove around just fine. I was like, okay, $12,000, let's do it. I bought my Impala. I drove it home on I-5. It made it all the way home. By the time I got home, the transmission gave out. It stopped running.
No.
Okay, so I rebuilt the transmission. It cost me like $3,000. So now I'm $15,000 into this car. But love it. Just loved it. I put air suspension that I had from my old car. I had kept all the parts.
So you harvested all the stuff.
So I pulled them out of the totes finally. I put them on, and I drove around all summer. Rusted ass Impala on air suspension. I was, dancing whenever I could. And I was like, all right, this is great. I love it. Now let's rebuild it from the ground up. So it's actually right now at a body shop. This guy I met at the Lowrider Super Show. And it's right now getting back from being acid dipped. So they took the whole frame off everything, dumped it in a tank.
Oh, cool.
Stripped everything.
Really?
All the paint, all the glue, all the trim, all of it.
That's like a real job.
It's bare metal is what he's getting back. And they're going to epoxy it so it doesn't rust, and we're just gonna start hitting things. Let's finish them. I have new doors, I have new hood, new trunk, new fenders, new everything. We're replacing basically the whole thing, and we're gonna build it from the ground up. And my vision, if I can get it done in the next year and a half, I want it by next summer, is I'm gonna have it painted some sort of blue with a white top, white interior. And I'm thinking a 3-pump hydraulic setup so that I can 3-wheel and that I can hop the front just a little bit. So, it never went away. My love for cars never went away. The difference is now I actually have some money.
Now you can do what you actually always wanted to do.
So, I bought it, paid 12. Transmission brought it to 15, and I probably got another 20 some thousand in work. But by the time I'm
once
done-
these things are like all set back up, does it hold its value? Could you sell it like and break even more or less? Do people buy them like that?
So fully done ones are selling for like 70,000-80,000.
Oh, wow.
So I probably could make money off of it when I'm done.
But after
I
that,
won't.
after
I
all that
won't.
time and energy and customization, there's no
I'm
way,
already
right?
I'm already looking at how do I buy a 63 Impala now, because I have 2 garage spaces and
You got to fill them.
the minivan's in one, but that can park outside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The lowrider should be covered. So
I mean, and half the fun is in the actual project itself,
Yeah.
not in like.
and my goal actually is long term when I retire, hopefully, by 50 something, I'll be able to do the work myself. And that's what I want to do is buy another one then and do the work myself and, have the space to do it and really, because that was my dream with this one. With time and space, I can't do it. You can't take a whole body off of a car in a small residential garage. Like you need lifts, you need all these things. So, but one day when I have my $2 million house with my shop, I'll buy my 63. I'll do the full frame off myself, that would be my retirement. That's my goal.
I love it. I hope real estate can get you there.
Yeah, me too. That's it's halfway. We're going.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much, Ryan. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm glad you guys had me on.
Yeah.
Thanks.